I thought I'd do today really quick is for those people who are interested in just having the financial planning portion of uh, their situation done, via online as opposed to going through the whole educational program. So we use a platform called RightCapital, and this is some sample data, but you can see I basically have a bunch of menu items here across the top, and then each one of those has a sub item as far as where you can pull up different screens. The main part of the portal, and this is something that's emailed to the clients directly, you'd actually come in here and this would be blank. You can have banking, your investments, your loans, your property insurance. All of this is brought through a data exchange. I think they use Yodlee or it might be Cash Edge, but you may not be aware of this, but all of your information is tracked online. So you would come in and link an account, like I have my Bank of America cards, a Bank of America card, excuse me, to kind of come in here. You'd bring that in, and then you can bring in your account data with your username and password. All of the accounts are here. I mean, the Fidelities are here. If you have Vanguard, they're in here as well. So this saves you a lot of time in terms of the data entry, and coming in here and just being able to enter that information once. It goes back, it scrapes all the data from history in there, and it can kind of bring it in for you. So in this case here, the client's investment was brought in manually. They didn't have any accounts online, so you can also, if you want, just type that in physically. Your holdings would be added here. You can just do that by asset class if you want. And the main point of this is just to get the net worth figured out. So we need the balance sheet item of what is the person's overall net worth, taking into account both debt and equity, and then some of the property items and other things that kind of go into that. You'd also bring in your cash cards, your credit card information. You can bring all your local banks and whatnot. It works the same way. So once you have your kind of net worth set, you'd come in here and plug in some goals. I mean, obviously you're going to have your retirement goals. This software particularly is important, and it's one of the reasons why we chose it. It also kind of forecasts your retirement costs for healthcare as well as long-term care, knowing that you're probably going to have a gap there from the age of 55 to 65 until Medicare picks up. And then college could be in there. And it's very simple to add a goal on here. So you got 4 kids, so we add a college. You can say this is for Johnny's college fund. What kind of school is he going to? Is he going to public? Is he going to private? Public, masters, in-state, whatnot. All of this data is already pre-populated into the system. When does it start for Johnny? Johnny goes to school when he's 18, and then when he's out, when he's 25, maybe he partied too hard. You go in there and just kind of plug that in. So these are the goals. Like I said, you can kind of add different ones in here. It doesn't have to be something specific. It could be a vacation, anything that you want to come up with and how it works out. Then you bring in your income. How much are you making? How much is your spouse making if you are married? Then the estimated Social Security profiles will go in there. And you can dial in Social Security in terms of how accurate you want to be. You can use a simple estimate, your full retirement benefit, or your historical covered earnings. And you're going to get all of this off of the Social Security site. It's super important to know, where's the Social Security stand with respect to your retirement planning. Savings are items that are going to be future outlays that you're planning on. If you're putting into a retirement plan, if you're putting into a college fund, say you have a Roth that you just started up, so you want to start adding to that. The system needs to know on a yearly basis, if there's extra cash laying around, what does it do with that cash? And they're going to fund your retirement, they're going to fund the college education, and kind of drill down from there about how it works out. Your living expenses are extremely important. You can have these, put in manually. If you had gone back to where we had the net worth area and you actually brought in your investments in terms of having just a regular, cash card or credit card, or even with your bank, a lot of the budget data is already going to be available for you to do that. And then you have to give some qualitative information about your family members. Once you have that, that's when you can start planning in terms of what's capable for your retirement, where you're going to kind of end up. So in the plan here, there's certain action items. I would come to this and say, all right, listen, this person wants to retire. The retirement expenses are $7,600. This has a probability of success right now of 0. So this is where the magic comes in. You start saying, all right, well, maybe I can afford to live a little cheaper. Maybe I'm only going to fund my college education for my 5 kids at 20%. Maybe I don't want to have as much money in retirement. Savings expenses, maybe we're living in a different area. You move and refresh and change these all around until you can get a probability of success that is, obviously approaching 100. And notice that I just toggled these factors here in terms of financial goals and savings and expenses. I still kept the same allocation that I had with the asset strategy. Remember, we set this back up in the profile. This is important to kind of drill this in with the investments that we brought in. So this person has some money over in Vanguard. They got the bond fund. They got the VTI. If you want to start modeling that and saying, what is the difference if I were to go beyond my current allocation because I'm not funded for my plan, maybe you say, you know what, I want to live a little richer. I want to maybe spend $8,600 a month. You change that allocation. You can go from preservation to balance, moderate growth. So change it to a growth strategy. Have it refresh in here. And see, it doesn't like that monthly expense. You got to kind of bring that down. And this is what we do. This is what we do in terms of back and forth, trying to get these probabilities, in line. It'll show you the confidence factor, using what's called a Monte Carlo simulation, thousands and thousands of iterations about what happens over the next 20 years, and following this dark blue line here, that's pretty much the highest probability. But you have the range too. I mean, things could turn out really well for this person at the end of the plan, where they have $10 million and very bad when they're just left with 369,000. And you can kind of see how that scenario kind of draws itself out. We're able to model in as well, not just normal returns for certain asset classes and bond funds and equity funds, but let's say we have a really bad decade followed by like a period of slow growth, or maybe we have just assets aren't returning anything at all. We're in some sort of flat economy, or maybe this it goes gangbusters, and the new president comes in and there's a really relaxed fiscal policy, and things just go through the roof. So you can model those as well and see how that changes your plan too. So once we have this, and once we know that we can fund our education goals, say at 50%, because that's the way it turned out, we bring that back into the plan and set the goals. You can stress test your portfolio and your retirement scenario in terms of what the probability of success are. Healthcare costs will be higher. You change all these assumptions and move these around. What does the Social Security optimization look like? Are you going to do it at full retirement age? Are you going to do it as early as possible? And here's where the cash flows come in as well. The system gives you line-by-line detail. What does it look like from now until you pass away at 90, I think? This is how it goes out. So you've got your income coming in. What are our expenses? Here's some college funding. It looks like they came in here. What's our tax payments? How much are we saving? Are we positive or negative cash flow for the year based on outflows? Here's all your income flows, self-employment, Social Security, annuitant pensions, other stuff that kind of came in here. Your living expenses, all indexed for inflation as they kind of roll out there. Changes once you retire, because remember we toggled that to say like you're going to lower your living expenses once you retire. How do my goals look? Are those funded? Are those not funded? What's my tax situation look like? And then the assets, how are they growing or not growing? And why are they growing in a certain direction? We have these planned distributions right here coming out. That's your retirement distributions, usually on a minimum basis, starting at the age of 70, your RMDs. That's what pulls away from the plan. That's why it's drawing this down. So it's really important to kind of understand how all of these kind of interplay with each other. And that's where I kind of step in, having a master's degree in financial planning. This is not about investment recommendations. We don't hold assets here. We don't give specific investment advice. That's where your broker-dealer comes into play, your broker that you use, or even somebody at the 401k side. This is simply to get everything organized and understand, do we have enough life insurance? What is our position with respect to disability coverage? How does the education scenario look like? Like maybe I'm going to contribute $8,000 a year with all my kids and then start off with a lump sum of $23,000. Boom. We've got this whole thing figured out except this little piece here. Maybe you didn't have that lump sum. Maybe you don't have any money right now. This is what it looks like. And then, showing that to you as far as how, that can change the plan itself, I think from a visual standpoint is extremely important. And there's also the tax kind of calculations for your effective tax rate for those people who like to kind of geek out on this. But remembering, going back into the retirement area, as we move these things around, and as we change, the fact that these education goals are going to be here and this is going to be moved up for retirement expenses, when we re-pull this information off of the cash flows, it reflects that in terms of what's coming in versus what's coming out. You'll notice the financial goals here actually increase by me changing those. And we'd always go back at the end of the plan if we've kind of played around with the scenario part, knowing that I had some savings that were required for the 529 plan, we figured out that contribution needed to be, $4,200 a year. We're starting it right now, and we're going to increase that by 2% a year. And that's once we build these cards here. We've known that because we've modeled them from these top scenarios that take place up here. So hopefully that helps you out. This is a much more streamlined approach to doing the full financial planning class. I think we're going to offer this at actually a lower price. Haven't really decided yet. I need a few people to kind of step up to see if they just want, spend an hour or two getting a plan together. And just so you know, the RightCapital, they're out of, I believe, Chicago, and the license fee is around $100 a month. So you'd pay $1,200 a year, which is the minimum term to acquire that software, or through us, get it done with like a couple $100 and maybe do it once a year from there. So any questions?